My son Derek and his wife Vanessa left for a business trip, asking me to watch her mother, who everyone thought was in a coma from a bad fall. The second their car left the driveway, her eyes popped wide open and she grabbed my arm so tight it hurt. What she told me next made my whole body go cold. "I'm so happy you're here with me today. Please follow along until the very end and write down what state you're watching from so I can see where my story travels." At 62 years old, I never thought I'd learn that the people closest to me were hiding terrible secrets. Derek had always kept me at arm's length, even when he was little. But I always told myself that some kids just aren't huggy and close. That's just how they are, right? I spent years believing that lie, especially after he married Vanessa 2 years ago. When Derek rang me up last Monday afternoon, his voice sounded like he was reading from a card instead of talking to his mother. "Ma, Vanessa and I have to fly to Miami for work. Her mom had another bad spell and we can't just leave her by herself." Patricia had been lying still as a stone for 7 months, ever since she tumbled down the stairs at her old apartment and hit her head really hard. The doctors said her brain got badly hurt. The sweet lady just stayed in the special bed they put in Derek's spare bedroom, with tubes helping her breathe and beeping machines all around. She never moved or opened her eyes or anything. "Sure honey, I'll be right there," I said, even though something about how he asked made my tummy feel funny. "How many days will you be gone?" "Maybe 3 days, could be 4, he answered. Then he stopped talking for a second. "The home nurse comes in the morning and evening to check on her and give her medicine. You just need to stay in case something goes wrong." I should have asked him more questions right then. I should have wondered why they didn't just pay someone to stay there all day and night if Patricia really needed someone watching her constantly. But I felt so glad that Derek needed me to help with something that I pushed away the worried feelings in my head. On Wednesday morning, I showed up at Derek's big house across town with my little suitcase. That house always made me feel uncomfortable even though everything in it cost a lot of money and looked pretty. Vanessa met me at the front steps wearing her fake smile. The kind that doesn't make her eyes look happy at all. "Oh, thank you so much for coming, Margaret," she said in a voice that sounded like she practiced it in the mirror. "Mom has been really quiet lately. The doctors tell us she's doing okay for now, but we just can't leave her alone even for a minute." Derek walked up behind her, already looking at his fancy watch. "We need to leave in 2 hours to catch our plane. The nurse, Miss Chen, comes at 8 in the morning and 5 in the afternoon every single day. All her pills and stuff are lined up in the kitchen with labels." I followed them down the hallway to the extra bedroom where Patricia was lying so still in the hospital bed. Machines made soft beeping sounds, watching her heart and how she was breathing. Her gray hair was brushed nice and neat and someone had put light pink color on her lips. She looked peaceful, like she was just sleeping really deeply. "She hasn't moved or made any sounds in so many months," Vanessa whispered as we stood next to the bed. "Sometimes I talk to her and hope she can hear me somewhere inside her head, but the doctors say she probably doesn't know anything anymore." The way Vanessa said those words made me look at her face more carefully. Her eyes looked mean when she stared down at her own mother, and that didn't match the worried sound in her voice at all. Derek kissed my cheek really quick without really meaning it. "We'll call you tonight to see how everything's going. All the important phone numbers are stuck on the fridge." Then they were rushing out, pulling their expensive suitcases across the shiny floor, and the big front door closed with a click that sounded scary somehow. I stood there in the empty hallway for a minute, listening to how quiet the house was. The only sounds were the beeping machines coming from Patricia's room. I walked back to check on her, fixing the blanket that had moved a little bit. I reached over to touch her forehead gently. Right when my hand touched her skin, Patricia's eyes flew open. I jumped back so fast I almost fell over. My heart started beating so hard and fast it hurt. Her green eyes looked right at me and they were awake and sharp and seeing everything. "Thank goodness you're here," she said in a scratchy whisper, but definitely awake and talking. I was starting to worry they'd never leave us alone. All the blood in my body felt like it disappeared. "Patricia, you're awake and talking." She tried to push herself up a little and made a face like it hurt. "Please help me sit up. I've been lying frozen like this for so long that my whole body aches and hurts everywhere." My hands were shaking as I helped put more pillows behind her back. My brain couldn't understand what was happening. But the doctors said Derek and Vanessa said you were in a coma and couldn't wake up. Patricia made a sad, angry laugh that sounded like she'd been hurt really badly. Oh, Margaret, there's so much you don't know about what's really going on here. She grabbed my hand hard. They want everyone to think I'm in a coma because that's what they need people to believe so their plan works. I don't understand what you mean, I whispered, sitting down hard in the chair. Patricia's eyes got wet with tears, but her voice stayed strong. They've been putting drugs in me, Margaret. Every single day, sometimes 2 times, Vanessa sticks needles in me with medicine that knocks me out cold. She tells everyone the shots are from my brain doctor, but they're not real medicine. They're poison to keep me asleep. The whole room felt like it was spinning around and around. That can't be true. Why would they do something so awful? Because, Patricia said so quietly I could barely hear her. They're taking all my money and everything I own. They need me to stay knocked out so I can't tell anyone or stop them from stealing. I stared at her with my mouth hanging open. My heart was pounding like drums in my ears. What do you mean taking your money? Patricia closed her eyes like she was trying to be strong. My bank money, my savings, my house up in Boston. They've been writing my name on papers when I couldn't, pretending I said they could have my money while I was supposedly asleep. They already moved $300,000 out of my retirement account. The big number hit me like someone punched me in the stomach. $300,000. But Derek would never do that. He's my boy. Your son, Patricia said in a kind voice but serious, is not the good person you think he is. And Vanessa, her voice got hard and cold, Vanessa is pure evil. I felt sick to my stomach like I might throw up. How do you know all this if they keep giving you drugs to stay asleep? Because sometimes I can fight the medicine just enough to hear them talking near me. They think I'm completely gone and can't hear anything, so they don't even bother leaving the room when they talk about their evil plans. Patricia squeezed my hand tighter. 2 weeks ago, I heard Vanessa on her phone laughing about how easy this has been. She told someone that the hardest part was pretending to cry at the hospital when the doctors talked to her. The room felt like the walls were pushing in on me. This can't be real. This has to be a bad dream. It gets even worse, Patricia whispered, and something in how she said it made me feel frozen like ice. They don't plan to keep doing this forever. I heard them fighting about when to let me naturally die. Those terrible words just hung in the air between us. I couldn't breathe right, couldn't think, couldn't believe what she was telling me. They want to kill you, I said, and the words felt wrong coming out of my mouth. Patricia nodded her head slowly up and down. And Margaret, I think you might be in danger too. The silence after Patricia said that felt so loud it hurt my ears. I sat frozen in that chair, staring at this woman everyone thought was asleep, trying to make sense of what felt like the worst nightmare ever. What do you mean I might be in danger too? My voice came out so quiet. Patricia struggled to sit up straighter, and I moved to help her even though my hands were shaking like leaves. You're here as their proof, Margaret. The sweet grandmother taking care of her son's poor sick mother-in-law because she's such a good person. When something bad happens to me, you'll be the one who tells everyone that I never woke up or showed any signs of being awake. The meaning of her words hit me like a truck. They're using me. They're using both of us. That's exactly right. Patricia's voice had so much pain in it. But you can still get out of this alive. Can't. I stood up fast and walked to the window. Outside everything looked so normal and regular. Kids playing in yards, people walking dogs. How could such bad things be happening in a world that looks so nice and peaceful? Tell me everything from the very beginning, I said, turning back to look at her. Patricia took a big shaky breath. The fall down the stairs really happened. I really was knocked out for about a week in the hospital. But when I started waking up and getting better, when doctors talked about me getting therapy and going home eventually, Vanessa convinced them I was getting worse instead of better. She told them I was confused and angry and sometimes tried to hurt people. Were you acting like that? No, never. But she was there every single time the doctors wanted to talk about me. She played the part of the tired, loving daughter so well. She made them believe that bringing me to their house was the nicest thing to do instead of keeping me in the hospital. Patricia's laugh sounded empty and sad. The doctors thought they were helping a family take care of someone they loved. I sat back down because my legs felt too weak to hold me up. And Derek, does he know what she's doing? Patricia's face got dark and angry looking. Oh, he knows everything. He's the one who thought up the idea to fake my signature on all the papers. Vanessa handles the medicine and keeping me drugged, but Derek is the smart one behind all the money stealing. The word stealing made my stomach feel awful. My son, the baby boy I raised and sang songs to and worried about when he got hurt or sad, was a thief and a criminal. How long has this been going on? The drugging started about 4 months ago. At first it was just light medicine that supposedly helped calm me down. But little by little the drugs got stronger and stronger. Some days I'd be knocked out and asleep for 20 hours straight. Patricia's voice got stronger as she talked, like telling the truth was making her powerful again. The money stealing started right after they brought me to this house from the hospital. Small amounts at first, just a few thousand here and there to test if anyone would notice. But when they saw how easy it was, they got greedier and greedier. How much money have they taken? Last month when I was awake enough to hear a phone call, they'd moved almost $500,000 from my different bank accounts. My house in Boston is being sold right now even though I never signed any papers saying they could sell it. They faked my signature using some legal trick about taking care of family members who can't think straight. $500,000. That number made my head spin. I thought about Derek's expensive car, the work they did to make this house fancier, Vanessa's designer purses and jewelry. I figured Derek's business job was going really well. But now I knew where the money really came from. The nurse who comes 2 times every day, I said suddenly, Miss Chen, is she part of this? Patricia shook her head no. She's a real nurse who doesn't know what's happening. But Vanessa is very smart about timing. She gives me the strongest drugs about an hour before each nurse visit. Miss Chen has only ever seen me completely knocked out and asleep. She has no idea I can wake up. What about all the machines? The beeping monitors. They're real machines but they're not connected to any hospital computer system. They just watch my heart and breathing. As long as my heart beats and I breathe, everything looks normal to anyone who doesn't know the truth. I felt chills run down my back. You said they're planning to let you naturally die. What does that mean exactly? Patricia was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady even though tears ran down her face. I heard them talking about it 3 weeks ago. Vanessa was looking up on the internet how to slowly give more and more drugs to make someone stop breathing. She found websites talking about how certain medicine mixed together can make it look like natural problems in coma patients. The room felt like it was spinning in circles. They're planning to murder you and make it look normal. Yes, and they're going to make it seem like a sad but expected thing. The family tried so hard to save her, but sometimes people just die anyway. Patricia wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Vanessa has already started telling Miss Chen that my breathing sounds worse lately, that my skin color doesn't look right. She's getting everything ready. I jumped up again because I couldn't sit still. We have to call the police right now. We have to make this stop. With what proof? Patricia asked gently. It's just my word against theirs. All the hospital papers support their story. The money transfers were all done with fake signatures that look real. And I'm supposed to be in a coma where I can't think or talk. But you're awake now. You can tell them what really happened. Can I? Or am I just a confused old lady with a hurt brain making up crazy stories about her nice family? Patricia's voice sounded like someone who had thought about this a million times. Vanessa was very careful to create fake records showing that my brain was getting worse and worse. She even had doctors write down that I have memory problems based on lies she told them about how I acted. How much time do you think we have before they do it? Based on what I heard them say, they plan to start the final killing part when they get back from this trip. They wanted me to have a few peaceful days with loving family before the tragic sudden turn for the worse. Patricia looked at me with eyes that were both scared and determined. They needed someone to watch who could tell everyone about my peaceful last days. That's your job in their plan. Understanding crashed over me like a giant wave. They didn't ask me to come help because they needed me. They needed someone to be their alibi. Perfect alibi too. Derek's devoted mother who loves his wife's family enough to give up her own comfort to help take care of an unconscious woman. Who better to promise that they were dedicated and sad when Patricia finally died from her injuries? Felt like I might be sick. All those times Derek called me over the last few months, asking how I was, if I needed anything, I thought he was finally getting closer to me and caring about me. He was keeping track of you, making sure you were dependable and wouldn't suspect anything wrong. Patricia's voice was gentle but honest. I'm sorry, Margaret, but your son has been tricking you just as much as he's been tricking everyone else. The last bit of hope I had been holding on to broke into pieces. Derek didn't need me. He didn't love me. He was using me as someone who didn't know she was helping with murder. What are we going to do? I whispered. Patricia grabbed my hand again, her eyes burning bright with fierce determination I didn't expect. We're going to beat them at their own evil game. Over the next many hours, Patricia told me things that made my blood feel cold as ice. We talked in whispers even though we were alone, like the walls might hear us and tell Derek and Vanessa our secrets. The first time I knew something was really wrong was about 5 months ago, Patricia started, her voice getting stronger as she shared her story. I was starting to feel more like my normal self after the fall. The therapy was helping and I was remembering things more clearly. That's when Vanessa started telling the doctors I was having bad episodes. What kind of episodes? She said I would get violent and mean when she tried to help me with simple things like eating or getting dressed. She said I didn't recognize her, that I would scream and try to hit her. She even showed up to a doctor meeting with scratch marks on her arms. Patricia's voice was full of disgust. Scratches she made on herself to frame me. I felt sick imagining the acting performance Vanessa must have done. And the doctors believed her lies. Why wouldn't they? She was the exhausted daughter taking care of a hurt mother. She would cry during appointments, talking about how heartbreaking it was to see me so confused and angry. She even brought Derek to one visit to back up her lies. What did Derek say? Patricia's face got hard. He played his part perfectly. He talked about how difficult this was for Vanessa, how worried he was about her mental health from all the stress. He suggested that maybe medicine could help calm my supposed aggression so Vanessa could take better care of me. The planned way they lied was amazing in a terrible way. So the doctors gave you calming medicine. First, yes, gentle stuff. But Vanessa kept reporting that it wasn't working. She said I was getting worse, more violent, more confused. Every visit she painted a picture of a woman going crazy. Patricia stopped and closed her eyes like the memory hurt. The doctors started giving stronger and stronger medicine. That's when Vanessa began making her own shots. What do you mean her own shots? She would show the doctors the medicine bottles, let them see she was following their instructions. But she was also adding her own drugs, medicine she was getting from somewhere else. Patricia's voice dropped low. I think she has connections from her old job. Old job. She used to work at a nursing home for old people. She got fired about 6 years ago, though Derek never told me why. I found out later from a friend that there was some kind of investigation about patient medicines going missing, but they couldn't prove she took them. The pieces were coming together to make a picture so dark I could barely look at it. She's done this before to other people. Think so. And I think that's how she and Derek really met. Not at the bookstore like they told everyone, but through some connection to her work with helpless old patients. Patricia moved uncomfortably in the bed. Derek has always wanted easy money without working hard, even as a teenager. Remember when he got in trouble for selling answers to tests in high school? I did remember even though I tried to forget. Derek had been kicked out of school for a week, and I spent hours at the principal's office making excuses for him. I thought he grew out of that phase. He didn't grow out of anything. He just got better at hiding his true self. Patricia's voice was filled with sadness that went beyond her own situation. Margaret, I need you to understand something important. This isn't just about money for them. They enjoy doing this. The control, the lying, the power they have over someone helpless. What do you mean they enjoy it? Sometimes when they think I'm completely unconscious, they talk to me anyway. Vanessa will lean over my bed and whisper mean things about how pathetic I am, How nobody will miss me when I'm gone. Derek talks about all the fancy things they'll buy with my money, the vacations they'll take. Patricia's voice shook a little. They've turned my suffering into their entertainment. I felt anger building in my chest, hot and fierce like fire. Those monsters. Last week when they thought I was deeply drugged, I heard them talking about their timeline. They want to finish this before Christmas because they already booked a fancy cruise ship vacation. They're using my money to pay for it and they want me dead so they can enjoy it without worrying. Cruise vacation. The casual way they were planning to celebrate her murder made me feel physically sick. $20,000 for a 6-week luxury cruise around the world. They already paid the deposit. Patricia looked straight at me. They're planning to be sad family members who need time to heal from their tragic loss. The boldness of it was breathtaking. How do you know all these tiny details? Because they're not as careful as they think they are. When you believe someone is unconscious and can't hear, you stop watching how loud you talk. And when you're excited about your evil plans, you share details. Patricia managed a small weak smile. They've basically confessed their whole plan to me over the last few months without knowing I could hear. What exactly is their plan step by step? Patricia took a deep breath like she was preparing herself to relive the scariest parts. Starting when they come back from Miami, Vanessa is going to begin writing down what she calls worrying changes in my condition. She'll call Miss Chen and maybe bring in another nurse for a second opinion. She's going to report that my breathing sounds labored, that my color is off, that she's noticed signs my organs are failing. But you're totally fine right now. Not for long if their plan works. She's going to increase the drug amounts to actually cause the symptoms she's reporting. Problems breathing, irregular heartbeats, signs that my body is shutting down. Patricia's voice was clinical, like she was talking about someone else's death instead of her own. The beauty of their plan is it will look completely natural. A brain-injured woman whose body finally gives up. How long do they think this will take? Based on what I heard, they're planning for it to happen over about 2 weeks. Long enough to seem natural but not so long that it becomes inconvenient for them. Patricia paused. They want me dead before New Year's Day. That was less than a month away. And what about after you're dead? What happens then? They inherit everything as my next of kin since Vanessa is my daughter. The house, the remaining money, my life insurance policy. They've already researched inheritance laws to make sure there won't be any problems. Patricia's voice got cold. They've even picked out my burial spot, the cheapest one they could find. No point wasting money on a dead woman, they say. I was shaking with rage and horror. We have to stop them. We have to find a way to prove what they're doing. I've been thinking about that for months, Patricia said. The problem is everything they've done has been very carefully planned. The hospital records, the money documents, even the people who can say I'm in a coma. It all supports their story. But we know the truth now. We know what's real. We know the truth, but proving it is completely different. Patricia looked at me with an expression that was both desperate and determined. That's why I need your help, Margaret. You're the only person who's seen me awake. You're the only one who knows what they're really doing. What do you want me to do? Patricia was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was stronger than it had been all day. I want you to help me gather evidence. Real proof. The kind that even the best lawyers can't explain away. How do we do that? They think they're so clever, but they've made one big mistake. Patricia's eyes had a fierce gleam in them. They trust you completely. Derek believes his sweet, innocent mother would never suspect anything bad. He thinks you're the perfect witness because you're too naive to see what's really happening. So we use that against them. Exactly right. Over the next few days before they come back, I need you to help me find proof of what they've been doing. Bank records, medicine bottles, anything that shows the truth about what they're stealing and planning. Patricia gripped my hand tightly. And when they come back and start the final phase of killing me, we'll be ready for them. What if they suspect something? What if they realize you're awake and can think? Patricia smiled, and for the first time since this nightmare started, I saw hope in her expression. Then we'll give them the best acting performance of their lives. We'll let them think they're winning right up until the moment we destroy them completely. The determination in her voice sent chills down my spine, but they weren't chills of fear anymore. They were chills of excitement and anticipation. For the first time in my whole life, I was going to fight back against people who used and tricked me. And we were going to win. The next 3 days passed in a blur of careful detective work. Patricia and I worked together like spies, gathering evidence whenever Miss Chen wasn't scheduled to visit. We had to be incredibly careful about timing. Patricia would pretend to be unconscious during the nurse visits, and I would play the role of the worried caretaker, asking normal questions about her condition. Miss Chen was a sweet woman in her 40s who genuinely cared about her patients. Watching her check Patricia's vital signs and tuck her blankets with such gentle care made me realize how completely Derek and Vanessa had fooled everyone. "Her breathing sounds steady today," Miss Chen said during her Thursday morning visit, writing notes on her chart. "How has she been through the night?" "Very peaceful," I answered, hating how easily the lies came now. "No changes that I noticed." After she left Patricia and I immediately got back to work. She told me where to look in the house for places where Derek and Vanessa had hidden proof of their crimes. "Check the safe in Derek's closet," Patricia whispered. "The code is 4792. That's where they keep the fake documents." I found exactly what she was talking about. Copies of legal papers, bank papers, and medical forms, all with Patricia's signature. But when I compared them to her real signature on some old birthday cards, the differences were obvious to anyone paying attention. "They practiced forging it," Patricia explained when I showed her what I found. "I caught Vanessa tracing my signature on practice paper months ago. When I asked her what she was doing, she said she was helping me write thank you cards for get well wishes. I believed her then." We also found records of the illegal drug purchases. Vanessa had been ordering sedatives through sketchy websites using fake doctor prescriptions and made-up names. The shipping records were all there hidden in a shoebox in their bedroom closet behind the winter coats. "She's been getting them delivered to different addresses," I told Patricia as I took pictures of everything with my phone. "Post office boxes, neighbors' houses when they're on vacation. Even some to your old address in Boston before you moved here." "How much has she spent on all this poison?" I added up the receipts. Over $4,000 in the past 5 months. All paid for with money transferred from your bank account. The irony made me feel sick. They were using Patricia's money to buy the drugs to kill her with. But our most disturbing discovery came when I found Vanessa's notebook. She keeps a diary. Patricia asked when I told her what I'd found hidden behind cookbooks in the kitchen. Not exactly a diary, more like experiment notes. I felt sick reading it. She's been writing down everything. The drug combinations, the timing, even her notes about how you react to different amounts. Patricia was quiet for a long moment. "Read me some of it." I opened the notebook to a random page and read aloud. September 20th. Increased morning dose to 6 milliliters. Subject remained unconscious for 21 hours. Breathing remained stable but heart rate dropped to 55 beats per minute. Need to adjust to avoid suspicious readings during nurse visits. "She's treating me like a science experiment," Patricia said, her voice barely above a whisper. I turned to another page. September 27th. Subject showed signs of awareness around hour 18. Made soft moaning sounds when repositioned. Gave additional dose immediately. Note: may need to increase standard amount to prevent breakthrough consciousness. My God, Patricia. She's been studying how to keep you unconscious more effectively. What else does it say? I flipped through more pages, each entry more chilling than the last. October 5th. Discuss timeline with D. Agreed to begin final phase after Miami trip. Will document declining conditions starting November 15th. Estimate 12 to 14 days for complete respiratory failure. D. Excited about January cruise. Suggested upgrading to penthouse suite with our windfall. Patricia closed her eyes, but not before I saw tears forming. They're talking about my death like it's a vacation planning session. The final entry was the absolute worst. November 10th. M will be perfect witness to final days. Her testimony about peaceful final weeks will be crucial for any insurance investigations. D says his mother has always been easy to fool. She'll never suspect anything. Looking forward to finishing this and moving on with our lives. Can't wait to be free. I set the notebook down, my hands shaking with rage. She calls you the subject and me like we're not even real human beings to them. Because to them we're not real people. We're just obstacles in their way and tools to use. Patricia opened her eyes and I was surprised to see determination instead of despair. Did you photograph every single page? Every single one. Now we need to put everything back exactly where we found it. We can't let them know we've discovered their evil plans. We spent the rest of Thursday carefully putting all the evidence back, making sure everything was positioned exactly as we'd found it. Patricia coached me on how to act natural when Derek and Vanessa returned. Remember, you've been caring for an unconscious woman for 4 days. You should seem tired, maybe a little overwhelmed. Ask them lots of questions about Patricia's condition and what to watch for. Act like the concerned, slightly anxious mother-in-law who's out of her depth. Friday morning Miss Chen made her usual visit. As she checked Patricia's vitals, she made a comment that sent chills down my spine. Has anyone else been giving her additional medications besides what's on the schedule? She asked, studying her charts closely. Her heart rate seemed slower than it should be. My mouth went dry with fear. Just what's on the schedule you gave me, nothing else. Miss Chen frowned slightly. Well, these things can change. I'll make a note for her doctor to review. She looked at me with concern in her eyes. How are you holding up, dear? This can't be easy watching someone in this condition. I'm managing okay, I said, though inside I was screaming. She was seeing the effects of Vanessa's drugs without realizing what they really were or what they meant. After she left Patricia and I discussed what the nurse's observation might mean. They've been dosing you even while they're away on their trip. I realized with horror. There must be some kind of timed release system. Check the 4-bag carefully, Patricia suggested. Vanessa changes it every day before the nurse visits, but she might have added something to this one before they left for Miami. I examined the 4 setup closely and found what looked like a small extra chamber attached to the main line. Almost invisible unless you knew exactly what to look for. That's it, Patricia said when I described it to her. She's been giving me extended doses through the 4 system. That's why I've been having trouble staying conscious for longer periods of time. Should I take it out and disconnect it? No, don't touch it. If Miss Chen notices a sudden change in my vitals before Derek and Vanessa return, it might raise questions we're not ready to answer yet. Just leave everything as it is. We were running out of time to prepare our trap. Derek had sent a text message that morning saying their flight was delayed by weather, but they'd definitely be home by Saturday evening. That gave us less than 30 hours to finalize our plan. What exactly are we going to do when they walk through that door? Asked nervously. We're going to let them start their final murder phase exactly as they planned it, Patricia said calmly. But this time we'll be recording absolutely everything they say and do. Saturday afternoon my phone buzzed with a call. Derek's name appeared on the screen and my heart started pounding like crazy. Hi sweetheart, I answered, forcing my voice to sound normal and unsuspecting. Ma, change of plans, his voice came through. Our flight got moved up to an earlier time. We'll be home in about 2 hours instead of tonight. My blood turned to ice water. We weren't completely ready yet. Oh, that's wonderful news, I managed to say. I know you're both anxious to get back and check on Patricia. How has she been doing? The same as when you left. Miss Chen says her vitals are stable. She seems very peaceful. The lies felt like poison in my mouth. Good to hear. Listen, Ma, I want to prepare you for something important. The nurse mentioned that Patricia's condition might start going downhill soon. These things happen with brain injuries sometimes. Patients seem stable for months then take a sudden bad turn. He was already laying the groundwork exactly as Patricia had predicted he would. Oh no, that sounds scary. What should I watch for? Changes in her breathing, her skin color, things like that. But don't worry too much. Vanessa will know exactly what to do when we get back home. She's been through this before with other patients. Course, I understand. I'll see you both soon. After I hung up, I ran to tell Patricia about the change in timing. 2 hours, she said. her voice steady despite the scary circumstances. That's enough time to set up the recording equipment and get everything ready to go. Recording equipment. Where did you get that? Patricia smiled slyly. Did you think I've been lying here helpless for months without making any preparations of my own? There's a box hidden in the garage behind the old paint cans. Bring it up here quickly. When I found the box, I was amazed at what was inside. Small digital recording devices, a tiny camera, and what looked like professional spy equipment. Where on earth did you get all this stuff? I ordered it online months ago when I first realized what they were planning to do to me. It took weeks of pretending to be unconscious while delivery packages arrived, but I managed to hide everything before they could find it. Patricia's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. They think they're so clever and smart, but I've been preparing to destroy them for months and months. As we quickly set up the hidden cameras and recording devices throughout the room, I felt a mixture of terror and excitement coursing through me. In just a couple hours, Derek and Vanessa would walk through that front door believing they were about to complete their perfect crime and get away with murder. Instead, they were walking straight into a trap that would expose them for the evil monsters they really were. Are you absolutely ready for this? Patricia asked as we heard a car pulling into the driveway outside. I looked at this incredibly brave woman who had endured months of abuse and manipulation, who was about to risk her life to bring her tormentors to justice. I'm ready. Let's do this. The front door opened and I heard Vanessa's voice calling out cheerfully, "We're home, everyone." The final phase was about to begin. "Margaret, we're back." Vanessa's voice carried that same fake sweetness I'd grown to recognize as a major warning sign. I heard their footsteps in the hallway, the sound of suitcase wheels rolling across the shiny floor. Patricia squeezed my hand once, then immediately went limp, her eyes closing as she slipped back into her unconscious performance. The transformation was so complete, so utterly convincing that for a moment I almost believed she really was in a coma. "How is she doing?" Derek asked as he appeared in the doorway. His face showed what looked like real, genuine concern, but now I could see the cold calculation hiding behind his expression. "Very peaceful the whole time," I said, standing up from the chair beside Patricia's bed. "Miss Chen was here this morning. She said vitals were stable but mentioned her heart rate seemed a little slower than normal." I watched Vanessa's face very carefully as I said this. There was a quick flicker of something that looked like satisfaction before she rearranged her features into an expression of worry. "Oh dear," she murmured, moving to Patricia's bedside with theatrical concern. Sometimes that can be an early sign of changes in her overall condition. She placed her hand on Patricia's forehead with fake tenderness. "Poor mother. She's been fighting so hard for so long." Derek moved to stand beside his wife, and for a moment they looked like a devoted, loving couple worried about their family member. If I hadn't known the horrible truth, I might have been touched by their apparent grief and concern. "The nurse mentioned we should watch for any changes," I said carefully. "What exactly should I be looking for?" "Well," Vanessa said, still stroking Patricia's hair with phony affection, "with brain injuries like mother's, sometimes patients can take sudden turns for the worse without warning. Their breathing might become difficult. Their color might change. It's all part of the natural progression of her tragic condition." The way she said natural progression made my skin crawl with disgust. She was already preparing the false narrative for Patricia's murder. "Is there anything we can do to help her be more comfortable?" I asked, playing my part as the concerned but clueless mother-in-law. Derek and Vanessa exchanged a look that lasted just a fraction too long, and I knew they were communicating silently. "We just have to keep her as comfortable as possible," Derek said in a somber tone. "Make sure she's not experiencing any pain or distress. The medications help with that," Vanessa added smoothly. "I'll need to adjust her dosages based on how she's been responding while we were gone." I felt my pulse quicken with fear and anticipation. This was it. They were about to begin the final murder phase of their evil plan. "Should I stay longer to help? I could take some time off from work if you need me." "That's so thoughtful of you, Ma," Derek said, and for a split second I almost believed the warmth in his voice was genuine. "But you've already done so much for us. You should go home and get some well-deserved rest." "Actually," Vanessa interrupted sharply, Maybe Margaret should stay tonight. Just to make sure everything goes smoothly as we transition back to our normal care routine. Derek looked at her with surprise. This wasn't part of their original plan apparently. Vanessa, I think Ma has done more than enough already. No, I really insist. Vanessa's smile didn't reach her cold eyes at all. Family should be together during difficult times like these. Something in her tone sent major alarm bells ringing loudly in my head. This wasn't about wanting my help or company. This was about control and having their witness present. Of course I'll stay as long as you need me, I said, trying to keep my voice steady and calm. Whatever you both need from me. Over the next several hours I watched them settle back into their routine with mounting horror. Vanessa checked and double-checked Patricia's medications, making careful detailed notes about dosages and exact timing. Derek spent time on his laptop and I caught glimpses of what looked like travel websites and bank account statements. During dinner, Chinese takeout food eaten mostly in tense silence, Derek's phone buzzed with a text message. He glanced at it and smiled in a way that made my stomach turn over. Good news? Vanessa asked curiously. The cruise line confirmed our suite upgrade. Penthouse level with a private balcony overlooking the ocean. He looked over at me and added casually, "We're taking a long, well-deserved vacation after the holidays. We've been under so much stress with Patricia's condition lately." "That sounds absolutely wonderful," I managed to say through gritted teeth. "You both definitely deserve a nice break." The casual way they discussed their murder celebration vacation while sitting just yards away from their intended victim was breathtaking in its pure cruelty. Later that evening, as we sat in the living room, Vanessa began what sounded like a carefully rehearsed speech. "Margaret, I want you to know how much it means to us that you've been so involved and helpful in Mother's care," she said in a sugary voice. "It really shows what kind of wonderful person you are." "She's always been so dependable and caring," Derek added, reaching over to pat my hand in a gesture that made my skin crawl. "Even when I was growing up, Ma was always there whenever we needed her for anything." The irony of his words wasn't lost on me at all. I had been there when he needed me to provide perfect alibis for his crimes. "I just want to help however I can," I said softly, playing my role. "You've helped more than you could possibly know." Vanessa's voice dropped to a more serious tone. "But I need to prepare you mentally for what might happen over the next few days and weeks." "What do you mean by that?" I asked, pretending ignorance. Derek leaned forward with a grave expression on his face. "Sometimes with brain injuries like Patricia's, patients seem stable for months and months, then suddenly take a dramatic turn for the worse. Their body systems start failing one by one without warning. It's absolutely heartbreaking," Vanessa added, dabbing at her dry eyes with a tissue for effect. "But it's also a kind of blessing in a way. Mother won't have to suffer much longer in this vegetative state." They were so convincing, so well practiced in their deception and lies. If I hadn't heard Patricia's true story, if I hadn't seen the damning evidence of their crimes with my own eyes, I would have believed every single word they said. "Is there anything I can do to help during this difficult time?" I asked, playing along perfectly. "Just be here with us," Derek said earnestly. "Having family around makes it so much easier to cope with loss." Vanessa nodded in agreement. "And if anything happens, if Mother takes that sudden turn we're worried about, we'll need you to help us understand that we did absolutely everything we possibly could to save her." There was out in the open. The real reason they wanted me to stay close. They needed their perfect witness present for the final act of their murder play. Around 9 o'clock Vanessa announced it was time to give Patricia her evening medications and treatments. "This might be a good learning experience for you, Margaret," she said as we walked together to Patricia's room. "In case you ever need to help with her care again in the future." I watched in horrified fascination as Vanessa prepared the injection with practiced ease. She was so casual and comfortable about it, chatting pleasantly about the different medications and their supposed purposes while she drew liquid from multiple small vials into the syringe. "This one is for pain management," she explained calmly, holding up one vial to the light. "This is to help with muscle spasms and rigidity, and this one helps her sleep peacefully through the night without distress." The peaceful sleep medication, I realized with horror, was probably the powerful sedative that would keep Patricia unconscious for the next 20 hours. As Vanessa moved toward Patricia's foreline with a loaded syringe, I had to fight every instinct to stop her, to grab it away. But we needed them to reveal more of their plan, and Patricia had insisted she could handle whatever they gave her for one more night. How long before it takes full effect? I asked, trying to sound merely curious. Usually within 10 to 15 minutes she'll be deeply asleep, Vanessa said, disposing of the needle in a medical waste container with efficient movements. She won't wake up until very late tomorrow morning at the earliest. Derek appeared in the doorway right on cue. Everything okay in here? Just fine and perfect, Vanessa replied. Mother should rest very comfortably now. She smoothed Patricia's blanket with mock tenderness that made me want to scream. Sweet dreams, mother dear. As we left the room, I felt sick knowing that Patricia was already fighting off the powerful drugs coursing through her system, but I also felt a surge of deep admiration for her incredible strength and determination to see this through. Back in the living room, Derek poured himself an expensive scotch while Vanessa made herbal tea. The atmosphere felt almost celebratory, though they were clearly trying to hide it from me. I'm absolutely exhausted from traveling, Vanessa announced after finishing her tea in quick gulps. I think I'll turn in early tonight. Margaret, the guest room is all set up and ready for you. Actually, Derek said, setting down his glass with more force than necessary, I think we need to have an important conversation first. Something in his tone made both Vanessa and me look at him sharply with alarm. He was staring directly at me with an expression I'd never seen before on his face. Cold, calculating, almost predatory, like a wolf. Derek, I said uncertainly, my heart starting to race. He walked to the window and pulled the curtains tightly closed, then turned back to face me with an intense stare. Ma, I need you to understand something very important about the situation here. Vanessa moved to stand beside him, and suddenly they looked less like a grieving, worried couple, and more like a dangerous team preparing for battle. What situation are you talking about? I asked, though my heart was already pounding with dread. The situation with Patricia's condition, Derek said slowly and deliberately, and your specific role in what's going to happen over the next few days. I don't understand what you mean, I said, playing dumb. Derek and Vanessa exchanged another meaningful look, and this time I saw something pass between them that made my blood run absolutely cold. Ma, Derek said, his voice taking on a tone I remembered from his teenage years when he was about to lie his way out of serious trouble. Patricia is going to die this week, and you're going to help us make absolutely sure no one asks any uncomfortable questions about it. The words hit me like physical blows to the stomach. Even though I'd known this was their plan, hearing Derek say it so casually, so matter-of-factly, made it real in a terrifying way. Derek, what are you talking about? Please don't scare me. Don't play dumb, Ma. Doesn't suit you at all. His voice was hardening now, losing all pretense of warmth or affection. You've been here for 4 days straight. You've seen Patricia's condition with your own eyes. When she dies, and she will die very, very soon, you're going to tell everyone that she went peacefully, surrounded by loving family who did everything possible to save her. You're really scaring me now, I whispered, which wasn't entirely an act because I was genuinely terrified. Vanessa stepped forward, her mask of sweetness completely gone now, replaced by something cold and cruel. You should be scared, Margaret, because you have a very important choice to make right now. You can be part of this family and share in the benefits, or you can be a problem that needs to be permanently solved. What kind of choice is that? I asked, my voice shaking. Derek sat down directly across from me, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees in an aggressive posture. Here's exactly what's going to happen, Ma. Over the next few days, Patricia's condition is going to rapidly deteriorate before everyone's eyes. Her breathing will become severely labored. Her heart rate will become dangerously irregular. And eventually her body will give up the fight and she'll die. And you're going to be right here to witness all of it happening. Vanessa added with a cruel smile, you're going to see firsthand how hard we fight to save her. How absolutely devastated we are when we lose her despite our best efforts. When the paramedics come, when the police ask their routine questions, when the insurance investigators follow up on the claim, you're going to tell them exactly what you saw. Derek continued in a threatening tone. A loving, devoted family doing everything humanly possible for a brain-injured woman who tragically lost her battle with her injuries. I stared at them in horror. These two people who were calmly explaining how they planned to commit cold-blooded murder and use me as their perfect alibi. And if I refused to go along with this? The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees instantly. "Ma," Derek said softly in a dangerous voice, "you're 62 years old. You live all alone. You don't have much family besides me in this world. Accidents happen to elderly people living alone all the time. Falls downstairs, gas leaks, home invasions gone wrong." The threat was crystal clear even though he'd wrapped it in gentle language. I felt true, genuine fear for the first time since this nightmare began. "You wouldn't dare hurt me. I'm your mother." "We really hope we won't have to," Vanessa said. Her voice bright and cheerful again in a disturbing way. "We much prefer having you as our ally and partner rather than our enemy. After all, family should stick together through thick and thin, right?" I sat there in stunned, horrified silence, trying to process what they had just told me so casually. They weren't just planning to murder Patricia in cold blood. They were fully prepared to kill me too if I didn't cooperate completely with their evil scheme. "I need some time alone to think about all this," I finally managed to say in a shaky voice. "Of course you do, Ma," Derek said, standing up and walking over to pat my shoulder in a gesture that felt like a threat. "Take all the time you need tonight, but remember we start the final phase tomorrow morning, and we need to know for certain that you're with us 100%. As I walked to the guest room on shaking legs, I heard them whispering together in the living room behind me. I couldn't make out the exact words, but the tone was unmistakably that of predators discussing their helpless prey. I closed the door and sat on the edge of the bed, my whole body trembling uncontrollably. They had just threatened my life as casually as they might discuss the weather forecast. And tomorrow they were going to begin murdering Patricia while forcing me to watch and later lie about what I'd witnessed to authorities. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly suspect in their arrogance, was that every single word of their confession had just been recorded by the hidden devices Patricia and I had planted strategically throughout the house. The trap had been sprung perfectly, and they had walked right into it. I barely slept at all that night. Every single sound in the house made me jump in fear, wondering if Derek and Vanessa had decided I was too much of a risk to keep alive until morning. But as dawn broke through the guest room window, I was still breathing, still alive, and still absolutely determined to see their evil plan through to its final conclusion. At 5:30 in the morning I heard movement in the hallway outside my room. Vanessa was starting her morning routine, checking on Patricia and preparing what she would claim were prescribed medications from doctors. I lay perfectly still, listening to her soft footsteps and quiet humming, amazed at how normal she could sound while preparing to commit cold-blooded murder. Around 6:30 Derek knocked softly on my door. "Ma, are you awake yet?" I opened the door to find him standing there with a cup of coffee and what looked like genuine concern on his lying face. The performance was so utterly convincing that for just a moment I almost forgot what he really was underneath. "I brought you some coffee," he said gently. "I know last night was a lot of heavy information to process all at once." "Thank you," I said, accepting the cup with hands that only trembled slightly. "Have you thought carefully about what we discussed?" I looked into his eyes, my son's eyes, and saw absolutely no trace of the innocent boy I'd raised and loved. "Yes, I have, and I understand exactly what you need from me now." The words tasted like bitter poison in my mouth, but I forced them out. Derek's face relaxed into what might have been relief. "I knew you'd see reason eventually, Ma. Family has to stick together no matter what, especially during difficult times." "Course," I said softly. "I just want to help my family." "Good girl." "Vanessa is going to start documenting changes in Patricia's condition today. She might need you to witness some of those changes firsthand to confirm what you've observed." "I understand completely. I'll do whatever you need." Derek patted my shoulder again in that gesture that now made my skin crawl with revulsion. "You're doing the right thing, Ma. This is what's best for everyone involved in the long run." After he left, I got dressed quickly and made my way silently to Patricia's room. Vanessa was there adjusting 4 lines and making detailed notes on a medical chart. "How is she this morning?" I asked in a concerned voice. "I'm quite concerned actually," Vanessa said, her voice full of perfectly practiced worry. "Her breathing seems significantly more labored than usual, and her color is definitely off. I think we might be seeing the beginning of the serious decline the doctors warned us about." I looked at Patricia lying motionless in the hospital bed. Her breathing did seem slightly more difficult, but I knew that was entirely due to whatever powerful drugs Vanessa had given her the night before. "Should we call Miss Chen to come check on her?" "I already did first thing this morning. She's coming by this afternoon to do a full reassessment." Vanessa made another note on her chart. "I also called Dr. Harrison's office to let him know about the concerning changes in her condition." Dr. Harrison was Patricia's supposed neurologist, another part of their carefully constructed web of lies and deception. I wondered if he even existed at all or if Vanessa was managing that deception too. "What can I do to help right now?" "Just keep a close watch over her while I prepare her morning medications and treatments. If you notice any changes at all in her breathing or color, let me know immediately so I can document them." I sat beside Patricia's bed, gently holding her hand. To anyone watching, I looked like a caring family member providing comfort and support. But I was actually checking for the subtle signs we'd arranged beforehand. A slight pressure of her fingers to let me know she was conscious and alert inside her chemically induced prison. The pressure came, barely perceptible to anyone else, but definitely there and reassuring. Patricia was awake, aware, and ready for whatever came next. Over the next several hours, Vanessa orchestrated what could only be called a masterpiece of calculated deception. She documented steadily declining vital signs, noted changes in Patricia's breathing patterns, and called in concerned reports to medical professionals who I suspected existed only in her vivid imagination. "I'm worried about possible fluid building in her lungs," she told someone on the phone, supposedly Dr. Harrison's nurse. "Yes, I know it's a very common complication with prolonged bed rest in coma patients. Should we consider increasing the respiratory therapy treatments?" Derek played his part absolutely perfectly too, acting like a devoted son-in-law struggling with the impending loss of his wife's beloved mother. He made tearful phone calls to imaginary relatives, updating them on Patricia's rapidly deteriorating condition with fake emotion. "I think we should prepare ourselves mentally and emotionally," he told me around lunchtime with a sad face. "Vanessa thinks it might happen within the next 24 to 48 hours at most." "So soon?" I managed to gasp convincingly, playing my assigned role as the shocked family member. "These things can progress very quickly once the decline starts," he said, reaching over to squeeze my hand in false comfort. "But at least she won't have to suffer in this state much longer." Miss Chen arrived exactly as scheduled at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I watched nervously as she examined Patricia thoroughly, wondering if she would notice anything suspicious about the supposed rapid deterioration. "Her oxygen saturation is significantly lower than I'd like to see," she said, frowning at her equipment with concern. "And her heart rate is much more irregular than previous visits. These can definitely be warning signs of serious organ stress and potential failure." "What does that mean exactly?" I asked, though I already knew she was observing the direct effects of Vanessa's poisonous drugs. "It could mean her body is starting to shut down gradually," Miss Chen said gently and sympathetically. "I'll need to call Dr. Harrison right away and see if he wants to make any adjustments to her care plan or medications." After she left, Vanessa seemed quite pleased with how the visit had gone. "See how perfectly it works," she said to me quietly when we were alone. "The nurse is documenting everything in official records. When this is all over, there will be a clear, complete medical trail showing natural progression of her deteriorating condition. No one will question anything." That evening, as we sat down for what I knew would be our last family dinner together, Derek opened an expensive bottle of wine to celebrate what he called getting through another difficult day. "To family," he said, raising his glass high. "To family," Vanessa echoed with a fake smile. "To family," I repeated, though the word felt completely hollow and meaningless in my mouth now. As we ate dinner, they continued to discuss their future plans with the same casual cruelty I'd come to expect from them. The luxury cruise, the beach house they wanted to buy with Patricia's stolen money, The new sports car Vanessa had already picked out online. "We're thinking of moving to California after everything settles down completely," Derek said casually. "Fresh start somewhere new, you know. Too many sad, painful memories here in this house." "What about me?" I asked, playing into their assumption that I would be part of their ongoing deception for life. Derek and Vanessa exchanged one of their meaningful looks. "We were really hoping you might come visit us often out there," Vanessa said sweetly. "Maybe even consider relocating eventually to be closer. Family should stay close together, especially after going through something this traumatic together." They wanted to keep me close where they could constantly monitor me, make sure I never decided to tell the truth about what I'd witnessed. "That sounds wonderful," I said, smiling at them both while hatred burned in my heart. Around 8:30 Vanessa announced it was time for Patricia's evening medications and final treatments. "This might be the very last dose we give her," she said quietly with fake sadness. "I'm going to significantly increase the respiratory suppressants. If her body is already struggling like we've seen, this should ease her peaceful transition." Transition. Such a gentle, peaceful word for cold-blooded murder. I followed them to Patricia's room and watched as Vanessa prepared what I knew was a lethal cocktail of powerful drugs. She was even more careful this time, measuring exact precise amounts and making detailed notes about dosages for the record. "This is truly a merciful thing we're doing for her," she said as she drew the deadly mixture into a syringe. "She's already gone mentally, really. We're just helping her body catch up to what her mind already knows. It's what she would have wanted." Derek nodded solemnly in agreement. "It's absolutely what she would have wanted for herself." As Vanessa moved toward Patricia's foreline with a loaded syringe full of poison, I felt my heart pounding so hard I was certain they could hear it. This was the critical moment we'd been waiting for. The final undeniable proof of their intent to commit premeditated murder. "Wait," I said suddenly and loudly. They both turned to look at me in surprise, Vanessa's hand frozen halfway to the foreport. "I want to say goodbye to her first," I said, moving quickly to Patricia's bedside. "In case this is really it. In case she doesn't wake up after this dose." "Of course, Ma," Derek said softly. "Take all the time you need." I leaned over Patricia, pretending to whisper final tender words of comfort and goodbye. But what I actually whispered was one single word. Patricia's eyes snapped wide open instantly. The effect was absolutely electric and shocking. Vanessa screamed loudly and dropped the syringe, its deadly contents spilling across the floor. Derek stumbled backward, his face turning completely white with shock and terror. "Hello, Vanessa," Patricia said, her voice clear and strong as she sat straight up in bed, surprised to see me wide awake. For a long frozen moment no one moved at all. The three of us stared at Patricia as if she had literally risen from the dead, which in a way she had. "That's impossible," Vanessa stammered in shock. "You've been unconscious for 7 months. Your brain is damaged. You can't possibly be what? Can't think clearly. Can't remember things. Can't plan." Patricia swung her legs over the side of the bed with surprising grace and strength. "Oh, my dear Vanessa, I remember absolutely everything. Every single injection, every forged signature, every dollar you stole from me." Derek finally found his voice. "This is completely impossible. You're having some kind of bizarre episode. You're confused and disoriented." "Am I really?" Patricia reached over to the bedside table and picked up a small recording device, holding it up for them to see. "Then perhaps you can explain this evidence." She pressed play and suddenly the room filled with their own voices from the previous evening, clear as day. "Patricia is going to die this week, and you're going to help us make absolutely sure no one asks any uncomfortable questions about it." Derek's face went from white to gray. Vanessa looked like she might faint. "Keep listening, there's so much more," Patricia said calmly. The recording continued playing. "Over the next few days, Patricia's condition is going to deteriorate rapidly. Her breathing will become severely labored. Her heart rate will become dangerously irregular. And eventually her body will give up the fight." "You recorded us without permission," Vanessa whispered in horror. "For many months actually," Patricia confirmed with satisfaction. "Every confession, every evil plan, every casual discussion about murdering me. Did you really think I would just lie there helplessly while you destroyed my entire life? Derek lunged toward her aggressively, but Patricia held up her hand to stop him. I wouldn't do that if I were you, she said calmly. You see, those recordings are already in the hands of the police, the FBI, and the district attorney's office. They've been watching this house since yesterday afternoon, waiting for you to make your move. As if summoned by her words, we heard the sound of multiple car doors slamming outside, followed by heavy urgent footsteps on the front porch. Police, open up immediately. Vanessa collapsed into a chair, her face buried in her hands. Derek stood frozen like a statue, his mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. You see, Patricia continued conversationally as the front door burst open violently and armed officers in tactical gear flooded into the house. I've been working closely with federal investigators for months. Healthcare fraud, elder abuse, conspiracy to commit murder. You two have been very, very busy criminals. The officers appeared in the doorway, weapons drawn and ready. Nobody move. Hands where we can see them right now. Derek and Vanessa were handcuffed and read their rights while I watched in amazement and relief. The nightmare was finally over. As they were led away in handcuffs, Derek looked back at me with something like betrayal in his eyes. Ma, how could you do this to your own son? I stared at him, this stranger who had never really been my child, and felt nothing but relief. You're not my son anymore, I said quietly but firmly. My real son died a long time ago. You're just a criminal who happens to share my DNA. After the police left with their prisoners, Patricia and I sat in the quiet kitchen drinking hot tea and processing what had just happened. How long have you been planning this takedown? I asked in wonder. From the very first moment I realized what they were doing to me, Patricia answered. I contacted the FBI through a lawyer friend and we've been building this case ever since. They needed solid evidence of intent to commit murder. Your presence here as their intended witness was the final piece we needed to lock them away forever. What happens to them now? Now they go to federal prison for a very long time, Patricia said with satisfaction. Healthcare fraud alone carries a 25-year sentence. Add in the elder abuse, the massive theft, the conspiracy to commit murder. A shrug. They'll be old and gray before they see freedom again. And all the money they stole has already been recovered and returned to my accounts. The FBI had been tracking every single transaction they made. Patricia reached across the table and squeezed my hand warmly. Margaret, I can never thank you enough for your help. Without your bravery, they would have gotten away with it completely. I thought about that, about how close they had come to pulling off the perfect crime. If I hadn't been there to witness Patricia's awakening, if I hadn't been brave enough to help her gather evidence, Derek and Vanessa would be planning their luxury cruise vacation right now while Patricia lay in a grave. What will you do now with your freedom? Asked. Live, Patricia said simply with a big smile. For the first time in months I can actually live without fear or drugs. And you? What will you do? I considered the question. 62, I was starting completely over. No son, no family obligations. No one to please or worry about except myself. I think I might travel, I said, surprising myself with the words. I've always wanted to see Australia. Patricia's eyes lit up with excitement. I've always wanted to see Australia too. Perhaps we could go together as friends. The idea sent a warm feeling through my chest. The first genuinely happy emotion I'd felt in months. Like that very much. Now I'm curious about you who listened to my story. What would you do if you were in my place? Have you ever been through something similar? Comment below. And meanwhile, I'm leaving on the final screen 2 other stories that are channel favorites and they will definitely surprise you. Thank you for watching until here on Granny's Voice.
Thank you for watching this video to the end. The story was written by me and narrated using AI female voiceover.